Here we are. It is February 9th, and we're going to do episode 20. Oh my God. Episode 20. Episode 20, we should be like throwing a freaking party or something. But you know what? We're not going to do that because we want to get to episode 50. Maybe episode 50 we'll celebrate it. But episode 20 is just another Friday, another episode of
after 19. That's all it is, right? It's just a step on the journey. It's not a milestone.
Right. So we're going to try and give you our good old-fashioned show. So that mortgage show's back. It's February 9th. The last couple of weeks have been, well, let's get right into what's your rate. So the last couple of weeks have been, they've been kind of quiet, I guess. Last week, there was a jobs report that came out. Maybe Al can touch on that in a minute. But it kind of ticked things up as far as rates go. Rates are hovering around, I think, around 7%. Best case scenario, 6.875-ish. And this is for conventional, and then you kind of get higher from there. So what happened this week, Al? A bunch of Fed speakers came out and voiced their opinions on future rate cuts.
It's not happening.
Right, exactly. So Fed Chair Jerome Powell was on 60 Minutes Sunday. I don't know who watches 60 Minutes still. I didn't watch it, but he was on 60 Minutes, and he basically came out and said, hey, everybody, let's pump the brakes on rate cuts. It's not going to happen in March. He all but came out and said it's not going to happen in March. So let's keep our fingers crossed for April to be the first one. We'll see about that. And then some other Fed members spoke throughout the week this week. And what did they, I mean, Al, they all kind of said the same thing. What did they say? Kind of. What was their sentiment, you think?
That they're going to raise rates later, or that they're going to cut rates later in the year, right?
Yeah.
At some point, we don't really know when. Everybody just kind of like, yeah, calm down. It's going to happen. I think they really built us up towards the end of last year of like, hey, 2024, it's going to happen, right? We're going to do a couple of them, right? So you get excited. It's like, ooh, maybe March, right? First quarter sometime. It's like, they kind of built that excitement, kind of alluded to the fact that was going to happen in my mind. And you saw the markets react to that because right after that, the Treasury bill came down, which, mortgage interest rates, as we said, kind of follow that and kind of came down. But now as the reports are coming out, you're kind of seeing a different story. They're kind of just pushing that back. It's like, they gave us a little bit of hope, kind of dangling the dollar bill and like, ooh, we almost had it, right? So those of us that are holding our breath just got to hold on a little bit longer, right? Eventually we're going to be able to come up for air. We're going to weather the storm, but it's just going to take a little bit longer. So,
So specifically,
it doesn't go on forever. There's a lot of gold at the end of this somewhere. This doesn't go on forever.
Right. Exactly. And you're exactly right. So Minneapolis Fed President says, we want to see more progress on inflation. And the Cleveland Fed President cautioned against moving rates too soon. So it's like, I don't know, is it mixed signals? Is it our hope and optimism reading into things too early? I don't know. I thought it, and maybe it was like 2024 is when we're going to lower rates for 2024, 2024. Well, there's 12 months in 2024. It doesn't. But when the clock turned over to 2024, it was like, in my head, it was like time.
Yeah. Apparently it's not time. Not time.
But there's still a lot of room for people to get in the market and do some buying and selling and for it to make sense. So things do seem to be picking up a little bit.
So, I mean, I think, it's the same thing that we've been talking about for months now, right? The rate shouldn't determine whether or not you buy, right? If you have the ability to buy now because rates are going to come down in the future and you can refinance, right? We just know that there's going to be a boom of business in our industry once rates come back down, and we are very excited about that boom, right? We know that we're going to eat well when that boom happens, right? So that's why we're excited about it. But that shouldn't discourage somebody who's looking to buy and has the capability to buy from buying, because do it now when it's not competitive, and then obviously you can refinance in the future once rates come down. So I think that should always be the message, right? We don't want to discourage by these conversations, but it's difficult for us.
And I mean, maybe this is a sign of like if you're somebody who's been waiting, maybe the waiting game isn't paying off. Maybe you're getting frustrated with the waiting game, and you might have to wait a little longer. So perhaps it's time to bite the bullet.
Maybe.
All right, moving along. So that's what your rate. A whole lot of nothing, really. Rates didn't really change this week. Whole lot of nothing. Nothing happened, and we'll see when they're going to lower rates. Probably not March. That's the whole thing. So next segment, and this is a good segment. I think this segment might be one that we keep around. We do some shuffling from time to time. But Al, what's this segment?
Facts and queries.
FAQs. So
frequently asked queries,
where we get into maybe some questions throughout the process, or just some real like text process specific stuff. But this week we wanted to bring up some questions that might arise during tax season, because it is tax season, and there are some tax implications when you have a mortgage. When you pay on a mortgage, when you buy a house, when you refinance a house, there are tax implications that everybody should be aware of. They're not going to come knocking on your door telling you you're overpaying or telling you what breaks to get. So you got to be aware of it, and you got to file them and be savvy. And a lot of people are filing taxes on their own. Mm-hmm. So if that's you, this is really for you. I think CPA probably knows all these things, but well, that's a good. That brings me to a point. Should mention, we're not tax specialists. Definitely consult with a CPA.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we obviously know our stuff when it comes to this, but we always say we are mortgage professionals, not tax advisors. So, always consult with a tax advisor. But that being said, right.
So what's tax deductible? What's having a mortgage have to do with taxes? Well, first and foremost, you need to be on the lookout this time of year for your 1098. It's a statement that the lender sends out to you at the end of the year. It almost looks like a W-2. On that statement, you're going to have mortgage interest that you paid throughout the year, which is a big write-off. Probably going to be, if you're a normal person, W-2, wife, couple kids, 9-to-5 job, not too shabby.
Not too shabby.
The mortgage interest is going to be your biggest write-off that you're kind of keeping some of your income in your pocket. So make sure you take note of that. And then your property taxes, you can write off up to $10,000 of your taxes on your primary residence.
Yep.
What else, Al? What else is a big ticket item that people should be aware of?
So in the year that the loan was closed, things like upfront mortgage insurance, right, for an FHA loan, right, you're gonna be able to write that off. All you veterans out there that had to pay a VA funding fee, portion of that, again, consult with a tax advisor. You're gonna be able to write that off. Points that you pay on a loan, you're gonna be able to write that off. But yeah, I mean, the big thing is definitely going to be the mortgage interest, right? Mortgage interest is definitely the biggest one. And you're going to want to make sure that you do it and you take advantage of it and you do it now, because the government is probably going to take it away, just like they took away being able to write off credit card interest back in the day, right? And of course they did. Why would we want to be able to write off 28% credit card interest for the folks out there that are up to their eyeballs in debt? So make sure you take advantage of it now while you can.
They also remove the ability to write off interest from second mortgages. The amount of things that you can write off to try and keep a little bit extra money in your pocket and keep it out of the government's pocket, the amount of things has shrunk almost down to like one thing: mortgage interest. So be sure that you're taking advantage of everything you can to hang on to as much money as you can to keep it from buying bullets. Buying bullets. So they can fucking. Yeah,
that's what we're
ridiculous.
Trying to avoid, right? I mean, here's the thing: if you got a house, right, you can definitely use it around tax. What are you going to want to have, Ab? What's a necessity around this time?
You really want to have yourself a nice tax shelter.
Right? You gotta have a good tax shelter.
You got to have a good tax shelter. If you're going to be savvy about it, you savvy homeowners out there, mortgage interest, property taxes, VA funding fee, upfront mortgage insurance premium, points you paid. Write it off, Al, right?
Right? Write it off. What exactly is a write-off?
I don't really know what a write-off is. Do you know what a write-off is?
I don't know what a write-off is. I have no idea what a write-off is.
But they know what a write-off is.
And they're the ones writing it off.
Giddy up.
And another great point here, while we're talking about taxes, right, that kind of ties into something we've been saying for months, is that, as we said, credit card interest, used to be able to write it off, can't write it off. So the folks that have struggled, right, that have really had a hard time with inflation and paying bills and have had to put a lot of that onto credit cards, and those credit cards are building up, right, and they're getting to the point where you're making minimum payments, which is just interest you're throwing at them to keep to keep them from ruining your credit. That interest is not tax deductible. Mortgage interest is tax deductible. Use your tax shelter and consolidate that debt, pay it off with the mortgage, and you can write that interest off at the end of the year, right? So it makes sense. Use your house while you can use it.
Right. And if you're buying a house, Al, you made a great point. Points. So the money you're paying to buy down an interest rate. So perhaps you bought a house this year and the interest rate was too high and you paid a little premium to buy it down. Make sure that you are writing that off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good to keep in mind, because I mean, if you paid a point, if your loan amount was $400,000 and you paid a point to get that rate, that's $4,000, right? That's $4,000 you're gonna be able to write off. So, it all helps. It's a great point.
All right, so that's your little tax advice from us.
And once again, not tax. Guys. We're not tax people. We're mortgage guys, right?
Yeah,
mortgage guy. We're mortgage guy.
So, all right. So moving on to a new segment, moving right along, we're gonna jump into a new segment that we're do a little bit of a beta test. So, we're floating an idea out. We're replacing hot takes. It's tough to have hot takes every week. It's a lot of pressure. Sometimes you're just chilling.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that we're replacing hot takes, because we love hot takes. And there's times we'll bring back hot takes. What we're trying to do is diversify our portfolio, right? We don't want it to be the same exact show. Obviously, things like What's Your Rate, Facts and Queries has been a staple. But every once in a while we have a guest, right? Every once in a while we do an opinionated or a hot takes. But now we're throwing a little something else into the mix with we did top 6, right? We've had a couple different things that we changed up, just trying to keep things loose, keep things interesting, see what works.
Yeah, I'm sure that the Tonight Show freaking has a little bit of changes from time to time. So we're looking to give you the best show that we can possibly give, and we're trying to see what that means for us. So this week we're replacing hot take, or we're taking out hot take this week, and we're putting in
Debate Club.
That's Debate Club. So
Debate Club.
So the thought with this is going to be we're going to pick a topic or a subject matter, and whether or not Al and I have a stance that we're going to take, we're going to assign a stance to each other, and we're going to defend our stance. So this week we're just going to play around and talk about. We're going to talk about. What do you want to go with, Al? Aliens? Should we do the aliens? So, as a practice to float this idea out, Al is going to have the stance of aliens exist, and I will take the stance of aliens don't exist. We're going to follow this format. Is going to be Al will have his opening argument, 30 seconds. I will have my opening argument / thesis, Then Al will present some facts that support his stance. I will present some facts that support my stance. Al will refute me. I will refute Al, and then we'll come to a resolution. Hopefully.
I'm so unprepared for this. I'm so unprepared for this. When we had our original subject, I was more prepared, but I'm going to roll with it. We're going to see what we got.
Yeah, we're spitballing here. We did not prepare. So we're just, if you stuck around here in minute 15, 17, whatever, then, you can get a little treat, us messing around. So, Al, at the 18-minute mark, you can start with your stance. Hold on, my phone's blowing up. Hold on one second. You can just think about your stance.
I'll think about my stance.
Hello? Hey. They took it out off my paycheck? All right. Okay. All right. Me and Al are having our show. Oh, bye. I'll see you. All right, see ya. All right. Home office took money out of my paycheck for HSA account. I don't have an HSA account.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We're going to get to the bottom of that. Let's debate whether
okay,
or
Al.
not HSA account.
Al, what's your stance?
Okay, so my stance is that, look, aliens exist, right? There was a period of time when we didn't believe that aliens existed, or it was okay not to think that aliens existed because we didn't know as much about the universe, right? But now that we know that we are just a star in a galaxy full of billions of stars, in space full of billions and billions of galaxies, right? The odds are obviously in the favor of there has to be aliens out there. That's my 30 seconds. Right?
I love that. Yeah, that's well said. So my stance obviously is that aliens do not exist, and my main contention and thesis is going to be that I will reference the Fermi paradox, which is if there are all of these endless possibilities and billions of stars and galaxies and host planets, then where are the aliens? Where are they? How come we haven't found them? How come they haven't found us? There's no real hard, irrefutable evidence of their existence. So the Fermi paradox, it's in and of itself, is an explanation as to why they don't exist.
Sure. So there's a couple different things that we have to take into account here, right? When we look at whether or not aliens exist. And you said that they haven't visited. So we look at the building of temples or the building of pyramids all over the world, right? At a time when the world did not communicate from one end to the other like it does now, right? So how could they possibly make these structures that are aligned to certain points in space, certain things, very tied to, is it astrology, I guess? Right, Ab? Mm-hmm. Is that right? Right.
A lot of them are. Yeah.
And this is 4,000 plus years ago. Some of these things go back to 9,000, 10,000 years ago. So how could they possibly have that? You have these hieroglyphs that depict some sort of otherworldly creature, right? That, things like coming down from space, what we would look at today is like a UFO, like a flying saucer, right? And not to mention the fact that how did they build these things? There's no way. We don't even have the machinery to build the pyramids today. How long we just don't have it. We don't have it. And so how did they do that 4,000 years ago with no help? I just think that all the facts point to it had to be something else, right? It's because it sure as hell wasn't us.
So,
and I can go on farther, by the way, but I'm trying to, in the essence of keeping time.
Right. So I'm just taking notes for when I do refute your evidence. Yeah. So pyramids aligned, and they have visited. Okay. So the fact that aliens not existing, the fact that that our planet is such a Goldilocks planet, and the likelihood of us being on a planet that is able to host life, it is so slim that we will, that we're even here and have evolved to a point where we're conscious beings. In order for us to evolve to a point where we could travel space and time and make it somewhere else, the planet would have to be indestructible. There would have to be no mass extinctions. So I don't think that it's even remotely possible for a planet to host life long enough that they could evolve to a point where they could figure out how to travel from star system to star system to make it here. So they would have to be coming from outside of our galaxy to make it here. This just the lifespan that it would take to travel that, it would be massive. Thousands of years they'd have to travel to get from star system to star system. So just on biological life alone, making it that far, it just seems highly unlikely.
Sure. So how long were dinosaurs around? A couple million years, right? How long have we been around? A couple thousand years. So when we take a look at how
couple 100,000 years.
Okay. So when you take time obviously is relative, right? What our 100-year lifespan sometimes feels so long, right? But when you look at it in the scope of dinosaurs were around for 250 million years, I want to say. Somewhere around there. Where are we going to be, right? You see how far we've come in, let's just say 2,000 years, right? Let's say the past 100 years, right? From really, it's 18 or 1900 to 2000 and the advancements we've made. Now take that and expand it out to 1,000 years. You're telling me we're not going to have capabilities in 1,000 years? We're already going to space and going to planets in our solar system and sending things out farther. We're not going to have the capability to do more than that, right? To evolve even farther than that. And you're telling me there hasn't been a planet out there that could have possibly already done that, right? And has the technology and the capability to, to travel, I guess, between galaxies, to travel farther than what we can possibly comprehend, because I think that's the biggest thing that gets in the way is what we can comprehend, right? And we can only comprehend what we know and what we see, and maybe a little bit farther than that, right? So I just go ahead.
For the just to refute the pyramids and the hieroglyphs.
Oh, I was supposed to refute. I didn't refute. I'm sorry.
It is a compelling argument you make about the pyramids across the globe that are very similar in nature, and
I feel like they use some goofy thing like vibrations.
So pyramids, first of all, you got to look at us. You got to remember that we're animals, just like any other animal,
sure,
on the planet. And nobody is wondering why chimps in South America do the same thing that chimps in East Asia do. Nobody's like, oh, they must have been visited by aliens because they both do the same thing and they're on the opposite ends of Earth. Same thing, like take ants for example, or bees. ants and bees form these complex structures no matter where they are on the planet with no communication that we know of from aliens. And they build these things that are identical to one another, and they've never communicated about it. So maybe it's just in our nature to do that.
Fantastic.
And
well said.
And then as far as the technology we don't know the technology used, but I don't firmly believe, but I have an unfounded theory that perhaps human evolution can go off into different tangents, and one of the tangents could be learning how to create and use technology, and another tangent could possibly be learning how to use the natural powers of the world, one being sound vibration. So maybe we can't comprehend whether the aliens did it or the sound vibrations did it, but perhaps a large amount of people getting together and moving their energy through sound has the power to move rocks that weigh 5 tons. I don't know.
You're telling me a middle-aged a cappella group could sing in the same harmony, and all of a sudden they can move stone blocks? Is that what you're saying?
I think the power of sound waves is unbelievable, and we can't even begin to fathom. And I think that to say that that's not possible, and think that they had some kind of tool to cut the stones that they made and it disappeared over time, like that's just as likely.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Now, here's a question.
Now you refute me, and then we'll have closing.
This kind of throws a wrench into things, right? Even if there's been people that have said that it's not necessarily the things that we've seen, right? These UFOs or unidentified objects, whatever they are, right? I mean, that's a whole nother piece of evidence. Is like, what about these fighter pilots that like see these things dart all over the place, and like Area 51 and some of the things that folks have seen, and Bob Lazar, and what he's talked about, right? That would have been the easiest, the low-hanging fruit that you could go with. But what if, because people have talked about this, that it's us from a different dimension, right? So we would have seen them coming if they were coming from another galaxy, right? That somehow we would have, we have I guess the space is pretty big, but the odds of us seeing them coming, I guess, maybe are decent, that we would have been able to, or at least see them kind of enter the atmosphere. But what if it's interdimensional, because they tend to they just disappear, right, out of thin air? So if it is interdimensional and it's us from another planet or it's us from another dimension, it's technically still aliens, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, we're supposed to just stick to our guns. So there's a little bit of that going on, I think. Good point.
Right.
So, yeah. So I think in summation, I think that we need to come to a resolution here. My resolution would be that it's nearly impossible to decide what is possible in this universe. And when you talk about other dimensions, the world was flat until we realized it wasn't, and then all of a sudden we were living in 3D. And 300 years ago, it was not possible to air travel by airplane is quite literally time travel, because like 1,000 years ago, you couldn't get to the other side of the world in 7 hours or 20 hours, whatever it is. And now you can. So it's like, as our technology evolves and we discover new things, air travel did not exist, and now it does. So perhaps dimensional travel could exist, and it's just a matter of knowing it. And a lot of what about things that may happen in a realm that we just don't have the senses? If you couldn't smell, if you were someone who couldn't smell, Does scent exist? You
Yeah.
know, what if there are things on a frequency that we just don't have the senses to take in,
Right.
and it's happening?
Yeah.
It's a fun argument.
It is a fun argument. I think that, and then obviously you get into like time travel, right? If it is us from the future coming back to visit us now, then that, obviously that goes towards your point, right? Because it's still us, right? You would think.
I don't know. And the other funny thing and the other cool thing about like the hieroglyphs and stuff is like there's people throughout time and history and the globe and whatever that do psychedelics, whether it's ayahuasca in the Amazon jungle. It's been around for, we evolved alongside of that, or psilocybin mushrooms, or synthetic stuff like LSD. People report seeing geometrical shapes and like seeing these like creatures in there, and you're just in your own mind, right? I mean,
right.
Some people, and I know about this stuff from like listening to Joe Rogan and stuff. Like I've never done ayahuasca, but they talk about it's almost like they are going into another dimension. So I don't know. I think all things are possible, and that is just that's fantastic.
Yeah. No, I agree. All right. Well, I think everything you said is bullshit, but we'll agree to disagree.
Yeah. So we need to work on debate club. I think it could be good, especially when we get into things that are in our lane.
We got to put a point on it. Or put a bow on it. You know what I mean? Tie it up. How do you tie it up?
I don't know how to tie it up because you probably need a mediator to tie it up.
We definitely need a mediator.
I think you had the better argument. I think you had more ammo.
I think I had the easier argument. I think it's much easier to be in my seat than it is to be in your seat. Right? You gave me the easy spot. There's a lot.
I'm just not.
Oh. We've had these conversations before, only on my side of things, not necessarily on your side of things.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we're being visited by biological life forms. But if there's aliens that evolved on a planet who had to evolve where oxygen didn't exist or hydrogen was the thing that they breathe or something weird like that. Like we evolved on this carbon-based planet, so we are the way we are. And we just think that that's how life is. But maybe there's a non-carbon-based planet. Maybe there's an element that we don't even know about. And there's something that's evolving in that.
So I think I think real quick, the structure of this would have been better if your side was, it's us, whether it's another dimension, another top point in time in the timeline, right? Or if it's just us now doing things that, other nations or whatever aren't aware of. And it's people, or not necessarily people, it's something from somewhere else, right?
Right.
I think that would have made things a little bit more even.
Yeah. It's too hard to be black and white.
Yeah, I think we should have gone with pizza. Pizza would have been so much easier.
Here's why I like pizza with toppings. Yeah. Is pizza even pizza? And if you're going to do toppings, like where does it end? Is pineapple topping is that pizza? Is it when you put spaghetti on it? When does it stop being pizza and start becoming a completely different thing?
You can call anything pizza. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I firmly believe that, if we're going off of what's better, I can't really go off of what's better because it's all subjective. But I think pizza. Well, I would say cheese and sauce, but then you're gonna have, when I was in Italy, I had pizza and it was like, the mozzarella with the sauce. I would think like sprinkled
tomato
cheese,
pie,
like sliced, cheese. So completely different. Is Lido's
how do you define pizza? How do you define pizza? All right, so debate club definitely needs a little bit of work, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So we're 36 minutes into our show this week. I think that it was a 20th show where, it's like the Ravens at the playoffs. Maybe we weren't ready for the spotlight. 20th show.
I don't think the 20th show is a spotlight. I think this is an ever evolving, ever changing kind of amoeba that we are in control of, and we can kind of mold it however we want to, right? I don't think that. I think it's great. There you go. Look at that little switch up right there. Bam. That's a sparkle. People are gonna love that. You know?
All right, Alvin. Yeah. All right. I know you got stuff to do on this Friday. So I'm going to cut you loose. We'll end the show, and we'll be back next week, hopefully with a guest, special guest, maybe, perhaps, maybe, hopefully.
So I think that's on us real quick because we have, a lot of folks that are excited to get on the show. So I think we definitely need to make that happen. We have a lot of opportunity out there for people to join the show and people wanted to join the show. So let's do that. Let's get somebody out here.
Yeah, maybe late February, March, April, we're focused on some guest appointments. Maybe we'll start scheduling them out and be good.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right, well, that's been That Mortgage Show for February 9th. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Al?
Buy a house. Lock your rate.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
Lock versus float. Miss an opportunity.
Float.
Miss an opportunity. It's right in front of our face.
Write it down, Al.
I'm not writing it down. It's all up here. Steel trap. Steel trap. Oh, shoot.
All right,
I forgot.
man.
Remember the last time I was going to say something and I forgot? You told me to write it down.
And what was that thing? What is it?
I can't say it now. I got to write it down.
Okay.
All right, amigo. Until next time.
All right, later. All right, see ya. I think it's great. Be a couple clips. No, there'll be a couple clips. Called a loser. I know.